Boys and girls, yesterday we learned about deer. Do you remember what part of a deer can move that most of us probably can't move? If you said ears, you're right. They can turn their ears without moving their heads. It's kind of amazing. And we learned how they can lick their noses. And I decided for you that this was not a good thing to try. Although I bet you there's at least one or two of you that did. Okay. So we talked about deer and how God helped make David very sure-footed, okay, like a deer. And that even if people are not always being nice to us, sometimes, there's a good way to handle that and a bad way to handle that. Good way is to talk to our parents about it. And another good thing is to not be like that to other people. So today, we're going to read about David and how he loved God so much. All right. David had fought off a giant, and he had run away from an angry king. He trusted that God would take care of him no matter what. When Solomon got to be king, he wanted to do a good job just like his dad. David was Solomon's dad. One day God asked Solomon, if you could have any gift, what would it be? Solomon, he could have said anything, money, toys, but he didn't. He said, I want a good heart that understands right from wrong, he said. So God made Solomon wise and understanding. Solomon wrote down some of the smart things that he learned from God. Sometimes he even wrote about ants. Take a lesson from ants, you lazy bones. Learn from their ways and become wise. And that's from Proverbs. Maybe you can learn from an ant. If you want to be wise like Solomon, you could be a good worker too. Sometimes it's hard to be a good worker. I know there are a lot of chores around the house that I don't always like to do, but it's usually better just to get them done and get them out of the way, and then you can be free and you can go do what you want to do. Amazing ant facts. Ants can yawn just like you. Did you yawn when you heard the word yawn? Doesn't it make you yawn when you see someone else yawn? And now that we're talking about yawning, doesn't it make you want to yawn? Queen ants take care of little kid ants. Some ants keep ant cows to milk. I never knew that. Some ants take tiny bugs as pets. They carry their little friends in their jaws like a mother cat carries her kittens. Ants are pretty amazing things. I don't like when they're in my house, but I think they are pretty interesting. If you could make one wish come true, what would you ask? Solomon asked for wisdom to know right from wrong. God loved that. Do you have something inside of you that helps you know right from wrong? We all do. God gave us a conscience. Smart Solomon said we should learn from the ants. What do you think we can learn? Ants work hard. When you have to clean your room, do you jump right in and do a great job? It's more fun to play with toys than to put them away. But whining just makes the job last longer. God wants us to work hard, like the ants. When my kids were little, especially my younger son, and I would give him a job to do, and he would say, I will do it, I will. And I would tell him, I don't want to hear you say, I will. I want to hear you say, I did, and I'm done. Of course, getting him to do that was not always very easy. Work willingly at whatever you do as though you were working for the Lord rather than for people. So sometimes when we have to do a job, we have to think about it in a certain way. Instead of being sad that we have to clean up all our toys, or that we have to stop playing and do homework or eat dinner, we should be happy that we have toys to clean up. It's what my mom used to say to me all the time. So we have to maybe think about the gratitude side of things. It's not always easy to do, but it's a good habit to get into. Talking to God. God, I'm sorry for being lazy sometimes. Help me to do better and to work harder. Amen. And that's just discipline, something that we all have to work at. So boys and girls, I hope you work hard today. I hope you are good little worker ants for your parents. I know they work hard for you. So work hard for them. And it makes life just a lot easier for everybody. Okay, on to Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, down the Chocolate River. When we left off, Mr. Augustus Gloop was not being a good worker. He was being a greedy eater. So let's find out what happens. Off we go, cried Mr. Wonka. Hurry up, everybody. Follow me to the next room, and please don't worry about Augustus Gloop. He's bound to come out in the wash. They always do. We shall have to make the next part of our journey by boat. Here she comes. Look. Now, if you remember, Augustus did go up the pipe. So hopefully he's making his way back to safety, back to dry land. A steamy mist was rising up now from the great warm chocolate river, and out of the mist there appeared suddenly a most fantastic pink boat. It was a large open rowboat with a tall front and a tall back, and it was a shining, sparkling, glistening pink color that the whole thing looked as though it were made of bright pink glass. Boys and girls, one of the things that amazes me about the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory book is all the adjectives that the author Roald Dahl uses. So if we just stop for 1 second. Shining, sparkling, glistening, pink. All adjectives. And it's made of bright pink glass. I know your parents probably like when their cars, especially on a sunny day like today, are shining and sparkling and glistening. Or their houses are shining and sparkling and glistening. I don't think any of us have houses that shine, sparkle, or glisten very often, just when company is coming. Okay, so there were many oars on either side of it. The watchers on the riverbanks could see that the oars were being pulled by masses of Oompa Loompas, 10 of them to an oar. This is my private yacht, said Mr. Wonka. I made her by hollowing out an enormous boiled sweet. Isn't she beautiful? The gleaming pink boiled sweet boat glided up to the riverbank. 100 Oompa Loompas rested on their oars and stared up at the visitors. Suddenly, they all burst into shrieks of laughter. What's so funny? Asked Violet Beauregard. Oh, don't worry about them. They're always laughing. They think everything's a joke. Jump onto the boat. Hurry up. As soon as everyone was safely in, the Oompa Loompas pushed the boat away from the bank and began to row swiftly down the river. Hey there, Mike TV, shouted Mr. Wonka. Do not lick the boat with your tongue. It'll just make it sticky. Daddy, cried Veruca Salt, I want a boat like this. I want you to buy me a big, pink, boiled, sweet boat exactly like Mr. Wonka's. And I want lots of Oompa Loompas to row me about. And I want a chocolate river. And I want... She wants a good kick in the pants, whispered Grandpa Joe to Charlie. The old man was sitting in the back of the boat, and little Charlie Bucket was right beside him. Charlie was holding onto his grandfather's bony old hand. He was in a whirl of excitement. Everything he had seen so far, the chocolate river, the waterfall, the pipes, the candy meadows, the Oompa Loompas, the beautiful pink boat, and most of all, Mr. Willy Wonka himself, had been so astonishing. He began to wonder, could there possibly be any more astonishments left? Where were they going now? What were they going to see? And what was going to happen in the next room? Isn't it marvelous? Said Grandpa Joe. Charlie nodded and smiled up at the old man. Suddenly, Mr. Wonka, who was sitting on Charlie's other side, reached down to the bottom of the boat, picked up a large mug, dipped it into the river, filled it with chocolate, and handed it to Charlie. Drink this, he said. It'll do you good. You look starved to death. Mr. Wonka filled a second mug and gave it to Grandpa Joe. You too, he said. You look like a skeleton. What's the matter? Hasn't there been anything to eat in your house lately? Not much, said Grandpa Joe. Charlie put the mug to his lips, and the rich, warm, creamy chocolate ran down his throat into his empty tummy. His whole body from head to toe began to tingle with pleasure, and a feeling of intense happiness spread over him. "Like it?" asked Mr. Wonka. "It's wonderful," Charlie said. "The creamiest, loveliest chocolate I've ever tasted," said Grandpa Joe, smacking his lips. "That's because it's been mixed by waterfall," Mr. Wonka told him. I always thought that was a really nice thing that Mr. Wonka did for Charlie and his grandfather. The boat sped down the river. The river was getting narrower. There was a dark tunnel ahead, a great round tunnel that looked like an enormous pipe, and the river was running into the tunnel. I have to show you. My Poochie must be dreaming because her paws are twitching. The boat was moving into the tunnel as well. "Row on," said Mr. Wonka, jumping up and waving his stick in the air. "Full speed ahead." "How do they know where they're going?" shrieked Violet. "There's no knowing where they're going," said Mr. Wonka. "There's no way of knowing what direction they're going, not knowing where they're rowing or which way the river's flowing. Not a speck of light is showing, so the danger must be growing, for the rowers keep on rowing, and they're actually not showing any signs that they are slowing." "He's gone off his rocker," said one of the fathers, and the other parents joined in the frightened shouting. "He's crazy, he's balmy, he's nutty, he's spatty, he's dippy, he's dotty, he's goofy, he's beany, he's buggy, he's wacky, he's loony." "No, he's not," said Grandpa Joe. "Switch on the lights," shouted Mr. Wonka, and suddenly on came the lights, and the whole tunnel was brilliantly lit up, and Charlie could see they were inside a gigantic pipe, and the great upward curving walls of the pipe were white and spotlessly clean. The river of chocolate was flowing very fast inside the pipe, and the Oompa Loompas were rowing like crazy. The boat was rocketing along at a furious pace. Mr. Wonka was jumping up and down in the back of the boat and calling to the rowers to row faster and faster. He seemed to love the sensation of whizzing through a white tunnel in a pink boat on a chocolate river. He clapped his hands and laughed. "Look, Grandpa Joe, there's a door in the wall." It was a green door, and it was set into the wall just above the level of the river. As they went by, they were able to read the writing on the door. "Storeroom number 54, all the creams, dairy cream, whipped cream, violet cream, coffee cream, pineapple cream, vanilla cream, and hair cream." "Hair cream? You don't use hair cream," cried Mike TV. "Row on, no time for silly questions." They streaked past a black door. "Storeroom 71, whips, all shapes and sizes." "Whips? What on earth do you use whips for?" "For whipping cream, of course," said Mr. Wonka. "How can you whip cream without whips? Whipped cream isn't whipped cream unless it's been whipped with whips. Just as a poached egg isn't a poached egg unless it's been stolen from the woods in the dead of the night. Row on, please." They passed a yellow door on which it said "Storeroom 77, all the beans, cocoa beans, coffee beans, jelly beans, and has-beens." "Has-beens," cried Beauregard. "You're one yourself. There's no time for arguing. Press on, press on." But when a bright red door came into sight, he waved his cane in the air and shouted, "Stop the boat!" Chapter 19, The Inventing Room. Everlasting gobstoppers and hair toffee. So boys and girls, a poached egg is a way that you cook an egg. It's when you cook an egg in boiling water. But poaching means when you steal animals that you aren't supposed to take. And so it's just a little play on words. It's a joke. And a has-been is somebody who's not really popular anymore. So a has-been, that's another play on words. So tomorrow we'll read about the inventing room, everlasting gobstoppers, and hair toffee.